All right, let's talk about senior affordable housing. Senior affordable housing has been an issue. You might have seen this in the Signal where they talked about affordable housing, and it is an issue. People talk about it. The rents are increasing. I hear seniors talk about this more and more, particularly women living alone. Their husband's passed away. They only have one item of Social Security. They typically are not getting maximum amount. They're maybe half of what that might be. And so here you have somebody that's getting $1,000 a month in Social Security, and it's gobbled up by their rent. They talk about, consistently talk about the idea that if they say anything to anybody about the condition of the apartments or what services they were supposed to have that they're not getting, they're threatened with eviction. So when they came and they talked about it, I said, I'll do it. Evict me. We'll see what can happen. Anyway, the rent increases are definitely a problem for seniors, specifically those living on Social Security, and it requires our seniors in those situations to either double up on apartments or leave the area or end up out on the street. But what we found out, it was interesting because people talked about this all the time, but we really didn't know the details. When some senior apartments were built using specific Santa Clarita City development agreements, they were given reduced development fees in part in exchange to build affordable senior housing. That's what the deal was. So when the first thing started, everybody kept saying, well, I think there's a development agreement for the Bouquet Canyon senior apartments. And but nobody had it. Nobody knew about it. Now, one of the things that I would have thought was that if this was an agreement that was still in force, I should be able to go to the city and say, I'd like to see the agreement. They should snap and have it handy. But that's not true. So I went and I looked up the Bouquet Canyon senior apartments online. And this is what they advertise. They advertise a one-bedroom, one-bath, somewhere between 509 and 717 square feet. Not a mansion by any means, starting at $983 a month. Some of the people that live there are well, actually, I know a person that lives there that we talked about it and we said, well, you can see this on the internet. I said, well, I can't afford that. Because they're living right up to the edge of where they are. And in some cases, I guess they're having to get money from other sources. So I wondered if the facility was built using one of those agreements. And I went to the city of Santa Clarita and I requested it. And the way I did it was, when I initially did it, I called Daniel Rivas, who was the head of code enforcement, is not there any longer, but who was a really honorable guy in dealing in code enforcement. And he laid it on one of his employees, Aaron Lay, and somehow, I don't really know how it got from there to Jason Crawford down to James Chow, who's a planner. And James Chow emailed me the development agreement. So there it is, and the development agreement has some things in it which some of the people that are referenced in there don't particularly think is valid anymore. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to argue that point. I went back to the city because this agreement is supposed to be valid for 30 years. So it's got another 10 years to run. And it requires it to be a senior facility. Residents required to be 55 and older, and now what I understand is they're renting to, if someone rents it, it's 55, but they could have people living with them that's under 55. I don't understand how that works. And they had this statement in there: affordable low-income housing with rents restricted to 30 to 60% of the area median income. I don't know how to calculate that. I could probably calculate what 30 to 60% of the median income is, but how does that translate to rent? I don't know. So I said, we need more information. And then it talks about having home-delivered meals provided throughout this entire time. So in the next step, here's the next step, here we go. I decided to email James Chow, and I said, thank you for providing the information to me. I shared the information with seniors that I knew, and several questions came up, and I asked him if he could clarify things. Has the council passed any subsequent resolution amending that development agreement? I mean, I would have thought that that would have come with the thing initially, but I want to make sure that it is either that the development agreement is supposed to be enforced or it's been amended. And then what formula would be necessary to complete the maximum rent allowed to be charged based on this 30 to 60%. And lastly, which element of the city staff is responsible for enforcing the conditions of the agreement? Because I'm not going to go out and enforce the conditions of the agreement because, they make me leave my gun at home. I can't, I don't have a badge. So I'm going to ask the city if when they have that agreement, who it is that's going to go enforce it, and then I'll let them go after it, right? So I told him I look forward to chatting with him. I saw Jason Crawford today. He was aware of the email. He told me that James Chow is putting the information together for me, and I will come back next month and let you know what he said. So there you go. It is 2 minutes to 9. We actually got through everything on our agenda. But one of the reasons why we did, and I think it was really good, I want to thank Mr. Cole a lot for coming and helping. I'll give you some questions. Thank Mr. Cole for coming. And I actually thought it was beneficial to have Brawley and Mr. Foley here, because then they can go explain things as they go. I don't have to guess or what's on the page. So Mary Jane, would you like to have a say?
Yeah.
Here comes the microphone.
I'm not the expert, but the contract with Bouquet Canyon was our first housing, and we had a contract to provide a certain amount of services for a fee, and in the process of that, we were 1% partner. However, that got sold. The original developer first of all died, and then his wife eventually sold it, and now it's changed hands a variety of times. Every now and then I would catch the word and send it. In the meantime, because the COA was in charge of also helping that, and our executive director. So when the new people took over, I'm not sure at what point in time, they didn't understand the regs, and so we had to go through a process of enlightening them, and we had the city help us. And so we are no longer managing partners, but we do provide services under contract, and that will end in 10 years. That's for Bouquet.
Okay.
Different one. And another thing is, affordable housing is not low income, which is, of course, we were using interchangeably when we were going forward with this, when we wanted to help our seniors. So as a result, the minimum, or the standards that they use include the entire Los Angeles County, which means it's pretty high. So, and I want to give you another example. I personally know one senior who gets $800 a month, could not get her in Section 8. So she decided to call 911 6 times in 3 months, and she's now living in a nursing home, and she won't move. That's how she managed to get out of not worrying about the rent going up, because she was so anxious about the rent going up that she developed psychosomatic symptoms. So I'm just telling you what these poor seniors are going through.
Yeah, I know. And I, like I said, I'm just trying to find out from the city what they think the requirements are, and then I'll let them go out and talk about it, right?
The age thing is very important, I agree, because it's in all the contracts.
Okay. So there you go. Yes.
I just wanted to add that, by the way, Mary Jane and I are on a committee that we formed called Sisters in Time. We are working with the senior center. We've been brought in under their auspices, and we are working to create a shared housing program for senior women.
Yes.
So we're in the process of doing that, and hopefully that'll help to alleviate. I think that there are a lot of people who would be willing to share homes, and certainly a lot of people need them.
Yes, that's the double up I was talking about. So, yes, I understand that. So anyway, we'll keep you informed about what we find out.